Okay, Sharkies versus the Dragons, 28-4. What I loved about this game for the Sharkies is that the knock heading into this season on the Sharkies was all about, the big games. They can't step up in the big games. Anytime they play big games, they always go to water, blah, blah, blah. And look, I understand the Dragons aren't necessarily, a top 4 side. They're not a Penrith Panthers. But we've seen the Sharkies beat Melbourne. We've seen them win big games. Granted that 40-0 or whatever loss it was hangs over their head like crazy. But what I loved about this game was it was built up as a huge game, the match of the round. There was so much intensity around it. Former coach, a lot of people actually put a poll up. Thousands of people voted Dragons that they were the favourites to win. The Sharkies looked like the ones that loved the big game compared to the Dragons yesterday. The Sharkies were the ones that stepped towards a game, that knew how to play in the big moments, increase the tempo. That's what I like, is the progression of the Sharkies, that this was a big game. I know they're not a top 4 side. It was a massive derby, and they absolutely dismantled the Dragons and showed that this is the reason why we're the top 4 and they're currently just on the edge of the 8.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm in such a odd spot with the Sharkies, and it's been, as you said, mate, they've gone and they've beaten Melbourne. It's like fantastic, but what I still don't know and why I can't trust the Sharkies at the moment for the finals, because I don't know what the halves combination is going to be. And you look through their season, all their highs, like they're all with different halves pairings and all over the place. It's so hard to find the consistency of what's the right thing to do, because they've beaten Melbourne, and did they beat Penrith or the Roosters? They
beat Penrith.
They didn't beat Penrith.
Penrith pumped them at Shark Park.
Well, whoever like some of their bigger wins have been when essentially Hynes and Trindle are out, or like there's just different combinations all over the place, which shows me that they're a resilient footy side. Which,
they beat Roosters at Magic Round, maybe?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Yes.
Real high score.
And it was a bloody good game.
Yeah.
Yep.
38-30.
And this is when Roosters were red hot too.
Yeah.
And which would say to you, okay, they're ready for finals footy, but we're 2 weeks out, and I've got no idea what the side's going to look like.
I personally would be putting Nicho at 7, Atkinson at 6.
So would I.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that has to be the play.
Feel for Trindle.
Oh,
Bloody
massive.
good player, but it just
Great
doesn't
footy.
fit.
It doesn't. And Atkinson has just been too good at 6.
Yeah.
And he's been an out-and-out 6 in the big moments. And, like, if there's one thing with Hynes, although he has done well in some big moments, if there's an argument against his game is in the big moments he hasn't really nailed it. Well, you look at Atkinson, he's been nailing in the big moments, in the big games.
It's a bizarre situation. Like, I would say Hynes and Atkinson's their best halves combo. I reckon their next halves combo was probably Trindle and Atkinson.
Yeah,
I would have that before I would have Hynes and Trindle again.
Okay. What do you reckon, Timmy?
In terms of...
Do you agree with what he just said?
Hynes and Atkinson.
Yeah, no, I've got ya. Thank you. But I'm just trying to... If you were to go like Atkinson and Trindle, like what happens to Hynes?
That's like what I'm saying is that you've got 2 halfbacks. They are both out-and-out halfbacks.
Yeah.
And I think the team is better with, like, as much as Hynes is a superstar, I think you would be better with playing Trindle and Atkinson together than going with Hynes and Trindle again, because it just doesn't gel.
What we have not learnt this season, but has been really reinforced, and I know you can sort of nitpick the results that you want, but it's just that 2 organising 7s, it just doesn't work. And, like, again, I know it's a 1-game sample size from last week, but the Panthers with Luai and Schneider, there's the SJ and Tamare, there is Nicho and Trindle. There's just been countless times where 2 7s been paired together, it doesn't work. The second you give an out-and-out 7, a foil in a ball running 5'8", who plays second fiddle, it just works.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see how Hynes is injected back into this side, because he's probably going to have to take a little bit of a step back, just because Atkinson... Look, granted, like I know it's trendy to be like, well, Atkinson's the main man now or whatever. We have to remember, and I'm not saying you guys are saying this, but like Hynes has led these guys to a top 2 finish and also a top 5 finish. And he's been the Dalian player, whilst it's happened. So, there's a big difference between being really good in 4 or 5 games and being really good in a whole season. And as I said, I'm not saying he's saying this, but I think some fans go, oh, Atkinson has beaten, these 2 sides, therefore he's the better player. And it's like, guys, like...
Yeah, and I agree with you. But I can understand where people are coming from with that argument, that in their biggest games, Atkinson has been the half that I think has played the best.
I mean, Hynes has played well in big games before for the Sharkies.
I mean, this season. I'm saying this season is the sample size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also feel like the Sharks closing in on a top 4 finish, whether or not they get there or not, time will tell, but they're thereabouts in the premiership race. Whether you think they're genuine contenders or not, if the Sharks are going to win a comp this year, I think Nicho has to come out and explode to take it to the next level. Whereas
Absolutely.
Ken Atkinson as your dominant 7, can he take you to a premiership? Maybe he can. But Nicho, we know he has the ability in him.
We also have to remember, like, Atkinson did get the drop goal against the Knights, which was great, but he also didn't have the best game against the Knights. Like so I think, I agree with you boys. I think Hynes, Atkinson is probably the best combo. I feel terrible for Trindle, but he's an out-and-out 7 in my mind. I think that people are being a little bit unfair to Hynes' resume and don't realise how bloody good of a footy player he is. I don't understand this quickness to just write him off. I think Hynes, Atkinson together could be pretty scary.
Yeah,
could be pretty scary.
Could be. Yeah.
On Magic Round, when Sharks beat the Roosters, which was probably Nicho's best game, that was the halves pairing, Nicho and Atkinson.
Yeah, okay. And we have to remember, Roosters were red hot during that period.
What about Fitzgibbon's comments after the game when he was asked about Atkinson and just touching on his versatility? He goes, he could play a role elsewhere in the team potentially as well. He said fullback possibly was an option.
I think you got to keep Will Kennedy there, surely.
Yeah.
I don't think he can change this much 2 weeks out from finals.
No.
I just think, I hope he makes a really tough call. And it's super unfortunate for Trindle, but I hope he just goes Hynes in and Trindle is there ready to go. We know Trindle and Atkinson can at least play relatively well together. If anything happens, boom, he comes straight in.
Yep.
I hope he does make the tough call, though, because I think there's been a few times over the last 2 or 3 years where it's probably taken Fitzy a little bit too long to make a change.
Which is hard because he has to balance squad happiness with ruthless calls, and has to show other people he's willing to be loyal to certain people so that they go, oh, well, he'll be loyal to me, blah, blah, blah. But I know what you're saying.
But someone has to be unhappy out of this situation, unfortunately.
Yep.
And he's just got to make that call.
I think he will. Okay. In regards to performance, Britton Nakota, holy, hasn't he just exploded this year to whole nother level? And we've been talking about, your Crichtons, your Katoas and some of those boys, but he wouldn't be that far off. Like Britton Nakota, I probably don't have him as a Dally M back rower this year, but in the batch of people eligible, he would be in that top tier for me this year. He's been so good.
Yeah, he's a little bit quiet to start the season, but, mate, since about round 10 or 12 onwards, he's been incredible. What about when they turn him under, he's going against the grain? He might be the hardest to handle in that situation.
His ball playing has just improved out of sight. Like, he didn't have this ball playing 2 years ago.
Geez, skillful, isn't he?
I love it when the halves get it and they just dish off to him and they let him be the ball player on that edge, because you see teams, when they react to it in defence, they're just in all sorts.
Yeah.
Because it's such a different look to anything else you get.
Yep.
You know the drop under's coming. They use off him all the time, but it just rattles them, and they're like, how do we stop this bloke?
What about the one where they go to show him under and they hold, then they turn Raymond under as well? You just go, fuck.
What about Ramey's game? I know he got 10 in the bin, but, like, mate, he is truly, when you talk about the best centres in the game, and you might not have him as one, but he got to be in the combo. Like, when you put him in that top tier of form centres this year, Ramey's been there for me, for sure. For sure. Like, yes, his career might not stack up against other guys like Joey Manu or whatever, but form centres this year, he's in that top tier for me, Ramian.
I'd love to know, like, what he did in the off-season. I feel like he's added a yard of pace this year. Like, he's always been a brute, strong guy, but the way that he's able to do that in and away and just leave centres for dead.
That in and away was magical.
Well, what's been reinforced to me recently, and I've always had a big opinion of the importance of centres in the defensive line. They're the glue of the defensive line. Those are probably the 3 men in the halves, but Sharkies have the 3rd best defensive record in the competition at the moment. Doggies are the best. What have they got in common? Like, they've both got... There's 4 unbelievable defensive centres between Iro and Ramian, and then Sherry and Crichton. Incredible defensive centres, and they're just holding them together. Like, every time, for both those teams, every time a teams go wide and attack their edges, you have so much confidence.
Yeah. And I think Ramian's side also is the best defensive edge in the competition, which doesn't get spoken about that much. Just, he's been so friggin' good. I will say, and I've been saying this for a few weeks now, I do think Will Kennedy just needs to take a little bit of a step up in... So, for example... incredible try from Will Kennedy. Like jumps over the player, scores the try, and then he drops the ball the next set. And it's just that drop ball of the next set. I just need him, as they're heading into finals footy, just to get rid of.
Especially as you're not one of those fullbacks with this incredible ceiling like a Turbo. I need that Dill Edwards consistency from you.
Yeah. Which he two years ago, he had it. Like,
100%,
he was so good. So just need a little step up. And maybe that's where Craig Fitzgibbon is looking at and going, well, okay, form-wise, he hasn't been absolutely killing it. Does Atkinson, is it a better conversation or a more reasonable swap to put Atkinson back there potentially?
I think during the off-season, it's a conversation to be had.
But look, I just thought it was outstanding. And overall, in regards to performances, Brayley, maybe the best performance of his career. He was in everything. His service was top-notch. Like, genuinely, every ball was right in front of players. Every single play was at the right timing. Every step he took out of hooker was the right one. Probably the best game of his career. I thought Brayley was outstanding.
He just doesn't put a foot wrong, does he?
Mate, he barely misses any games. Yeah. And when was the last time you saw him injured or like stung from a tackle or down in the defensive line?
He's an absolute staple of the Cronulla Esplanade walk. I see him all the time, and it never ceases to amaze me how small he is. Yet he never looks out of place defensively. We know he's arguably the most durable player in the game.
Probably, yeah.
I think he would be.
Yeah. Crazy.
He's tiny.
And I never watch a game and go, oh, there's a spot in the line there. There's a spot in the defensive line. And it's all those little things. Like, what I don't get is, like, his pain threshold must be through the roof. I never see him holding a shoulder or, like, staying down and the trainers helping him.
There's that, phenomenal. And then there's, without having looked right into it, just tackle technique must be so good.
I was literally about to say that. Like, any young fella, watch his tackle technique because it must be perfect.
And it's like, look at Cameron Smith, who played over 400 games. Tackle technique, as good as it's ever been.
Yeah. And just ability to understand, like, the uses of levers and momentum and everything against a big fella. But, yeah, Brayley for me was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I personally love this performance from the Sharks. I know there's questions about can they be a premiership threat. I don't know about that. But can they have some good finals footy this year? I think they can. Maybe week 2. I hope week 2 after a win.
If they can just take that next step, get the monkey off the back and win a finals game, get AFB in next year, it's a game changer.
And I think that Fitzgibbon doesn't get enough credit. Like, that I think they've progressively, this roster that he got, they've progressively gotten better and better each year when it comes to the big games.
Yeah.
Sammy
Stone Street, I really like the look of him. Good character as well. Keep an eye on, I've had a few people at Cronulla tell me his younger brother, they really rate. He signed with the Storm.
Is it Pebble Street?
Good.
Thank you.
I don't want that to be lost. He signed with the Melbourne Storm. Okay. Just keep an eye on that.
That's a rock solid signing.
So look, great clinical win from the Sharkies. Absolutely loved it. I think they get to week 2 of the finals. I think that they do have a big game in them in finals. I think that they've matured. I think they're going to understand what needs to be take to get to that week 2 and win that first game. Hopefully, well, not that first game, but week 3. So win that second game, hopefully. Because I just think they've improved. I really do. I think this is a really good case. I grant it's not against a top tier side, but this was a big game. And they completely controlled essentially the whole game. The Dragons put up a little bit of a fight, probably first 40. Then after that, it was all the Sharks. And it was clinical.
Mate, I'd love to see finals week 1, Sharks Roosters, just get a shootout there and then see Penrith and Melbourne get, like, it'd be perfect.
Well, let's work it out. Let's say they lose week 1 against Roosters. They'll be playing Roosters.
I think they'll play Roosters, likely.
Yeah.
At this point. And so
Roosters?
Melbourne... won't Melbourne... Doesn't one play 2, 3 plays 4?
No. 1 plays 4.
1, 4, 2, 3.
So Sharks, Storm.
Apologies. Okay. Probably. I don't know why I always fucking forget that. So 2, 3. So it'll be Sharks...
Roosters.
It's Sharks, Roosters most
likely. It can be
likely.
Sharks, Roosters. They finished
2-3. 2-3 at the moment, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because Penrith are currently sitting 4th.
Yeah. God, Storm Panthers week 1.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's say they do lose to Sharks. Let's just say that. Then week 2 will most likely be against, like, not most likely, but we'll just assume who will win that. Let's just say the
Dogs
Dragons.
or Manly?
Sorry?
Dogs or Manly?
Dogs or Manly, like, let's say it is Dogs or Manly, I can see Sharks winning that match.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas I feel like other years would be like, big game, finals. I think this version of the Sharkies can beat Manly or Dogs.
Or Dogs or Cowboys probably there as well.
Well, any team that's below them right now, I think that in a finals match, I do believe that they've got the mental fortitude to beat them in a finals match.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, onto the Dragons real quickly. Not much to add because we've been saying it all year, just super inconsistent. Super inconsistent. I thought that they would break the trend this time because it was such a big clash, but clearly not.
Yeah, I was very confident they'd break the trend, which I came to learn over the weekend that was not a good omen for them.
Look, I think the Dragons, they're early in their progress. But this is another one, we'd go back to the Titans situation. Look what Flano's bloody done. And who do you reckon had a better roster heading into this year, Titans or Dragons?
Yeah, that's true. Titans.
Titans. Flano had an unbelievable year, though.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, you probably would have expected Desi to have it. Desi's got a better resume than Flano. He's got evidence of doing it before. Anyway, I'm happily being the minority there. But let us know on the Titans fans, where do you rate the year? Do you think it's been solid, good? Do you think Desi's laying the foundation? I'd love to know where, because it's a relatively small fan base, so you kind of don't really know what the fans are saying that much, where their heads are at. Would love to know. But yeah, Dragons, I just think they're really early in their progression under Shane Flanagan, and with any, early in the growth of a team, consistency is usually one of the things that you struggle with.
Yeah.
And I think that next year we're going to find that, will they be like super consistent, as in go for like 8 rounds? Maybe not, but they won't be like 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on. It might be 2 or 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. It might be more along and they'll build into a better squad.
Will they lose at the end of this year? Lomax, is that sort of it?
They definitely, Lomax has been so good, but I think they head into next year probably a little bit stronger.
I think so. You gain
Lomax,
Val Holmes,
Holmes, Cook. There's whispers about Gutho. I don't know how real they are.
Yeah, I think they'll be a much better side next year.
And another year under Flano.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, boys, do the Dragons make the 8 at the end of the year?
Jeez.
God.
Who do they
Yes.
play? Who they got this week?
Yes.
Parramatta this week, and then who?
Yeah, and then Raiders. Who, if the Raiders lose to the Roosters, their season's done.
Yep.
So big result there. If they can knock them off, they'll be up for it. They've got a terrible for and against at neg 120.
If they win one of those games, they're in, right?
No, they have to win 2.
With their for and against, probably both of them.
Because if Broncos win 2, they're on the same.
Because Broncos, Dolphins, Knights, they all have
Better
for and against.
And that's because they've been so inconsistent.
Jeez.
I
I think they definitely win this weekend against Para.
Well, I don't know. Para have been pretty good.
No, they beat them, and then Para get the spoon. And the Raiders game, that's basically playing for that last spot, isn't it?
Well, if the Raiders beat the Roosters.
The Dragons
Yeah.
can win one and are still a decent chance of going through. So I'll say yeah.
Yeah, I don't reckon they'll win both. I reckon they'll win one, but I don't think these other teams will win 2.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
The Knights. The Knights have 2 super soft games. I think they will win their last 2. It's interesting.
Ooh, okay.